to the power of one. It is so good to know the resources that are available to you in the city of Philadelphia. Today, I have the pleasure of having Sheriff Bilal on the show with some of her staff. They will explain to us what the Sheriff Department does and how they can help those in need. Welcome to the show, Sheriff Bilal. Please tell me, what is the primary focus, primary mission, task of the Sheriff's Department?
Well, the Sheriff's Department, first of all, thank you for having us. We do appreciate coming to the community and giving out information. The Sheriff's Office has about 5 major functions, amongst the other things. I think the most things that people hear about is the real estate division, the civil division, our warrant unit that works 24 hours, 7 days a week, our securities at the courts, our community outreach, and our constituent services that we do. So those entities, basically, we're the arm of the court. It's like court orders mandate the sheriff's office to do different things. And so we're the arm of the court, and we enforce those orders that the sheriff, that the courts mandate. Let's say if you're on probation or parole. If you're on probation or parole and you have a ankle bracelet that you need to respond at a certain time, and if you don't, the courts order the sheriff's office to go check on you, see where you are, and to make sure that you're there, or to revoke the fact that you have not showed up or responded. That's one. Court order if you are in a property of a mortgage foreclosure, meaning you're not paying your mortgage for whatever reason. The sheriff's office don't know any reason. We don't know the address. We don't know the occupants at all. That court order takes about 3, sometimes 6 years to travel through the courts, where the court comes to the sheriff's office and say, you have to put this property up for sale. And then that's a process with the sheriff's office. You get posted information about when it's going to go to sale. And at some point, they would call the sheriff's office and turn that property over to the owner. But that's a legal process. Like I keep saying to people, we don't know who you are. We only know that address is when the court mandates for it to go to sale. That means all the litigations, all the negotiations, all the amenities to help people save their homes has gotten to this point where the courts say, okay, we done went through all of that. Now, Sheriff, you have to put this up for sale. So that's one of the, you see the warrant unit, you see that unit. But what we put in place was our constituent services unit. The constituent services unit is a unit that I mandate to get all the information, local, state, and federal, on how people can save their homes or their properties. And so therefore, if anybody gets anything posted to their, or whatever reason, how did they come to a court order, that information goes out with them. Basically saying, if you want to save your home, because most people, when they get that information, it's like, I'm gonna go in, shut the door, and I'm gonna pray it away. God gave you a phone and feet to walk to places. And so therefore, our constituent service gets those calls, and they walk them through the different entities that are out there that can help distressed families when it comes to their property. And so if they call the sheriff's office, that's what they get. That's our constituent services. So and the security of the courts, meaning we make sure that you're safe when you come into the court, whether you are a victim or a defendant. We want to make sure that everybody's safe coming into the courthouse. And so that's why you see the sheriffs checking bags and going up and down the court. We transport the prisoners from the courts to the different prisons, from the prisons to the courts. So those are the things that we do, that we're responsible to do here in the sheriff's office.
That's awesome. And I thank you so much for clearing that up for me, Sheriff Bilal, because I just assume, them working in victim services, I just assume, like, when you hear sheriff, like, okay, they're the people who kick people out of their house and not even thinking it goes through the whole court process. So I thank you so much for clearing for clearing that up. Now, when you speak about it comes through the court process and then the sheriff's department gets it and they see an address. Say someone's in that home. What is the role of the sheriffs the employees that will come to that house? Because now this is going up for sheriff's sale. So what happens if you have people in the house?
Well, if the property is going up for sure sale, that means somebody is buying it. If it says a mortgage, that means somebody is buying it through the sure sale. Now, there's a poster that, first of all, you get a whole lot of information prior to that. You get letters from the mortgage company. You get letters from organizations that help with that situation. You get letters from the courts. You get letters from everybody before we physically come out and put something on your door letting you know that this property is going up for sheriff's sale. And even when we do, my civil group gives you information like a pamphlet that we have called the HEART program, or our pamphlet that says all the numbers that you can call, including our constituent services. They even give it then that your property is going up for sale. You need to get in touch with somebody to help you. If there's a way that they can help you save it, they can. Some of the organizations that are on that pamphlet is Tenant Union Representative Network, Community Legal Services, Philadelphia Corporation for Aging, Office of Supportive Housing, Philadelphia Housing Authority, Funeral Petition Public Defenders, Tax Delinquent Lineberger, Tax Delinquent GRB, Save Your Home. All of those are on that pamphlet that we give out, even when we go out there to post it, though it has already gotten to that point. It's a legal issue with us. We post it and still get that information. Now, if you're in the house and the property gets sold, the eviction process still has to play out. We can't, just because the property is sold and you in it, we can't come in and say you got to get out. That has to go through the eviction process of the new owner. They have to go to court and you can defend yourself. They can maybe make an arrangement that you lease from them. But it still has to go through the legal process. We can't put you out then unless it becomes an ejectment, and then that's another situation. That's because it went through a legal process again in order for a person to be put out of a property.
That's great information. We also have with us Greg, who goes out into the community, and I must admit, I do know a few people that work for the sheriff's office. So when I'm at community events, I do see the table. They're interacting with people and they're connecting with people to give them resources. Greg, if someone comes up to you and says that they're in need of help because they'll be evicted soon, how far along in that process can you help them? And I did hear the sheriff. Can you help them, like when it's like the sheriffs are at the door and it's time for them to leave? Are you able to help them at that point, or is it months before?
Well, thanks for the question. What you're talking about is not something that we would actually be able to directly help with. We are agents of the court and we are executing the orders of the court. So when the notice comes to us that somebody needs to be evicted, there's very little wiggle room. There's certainly no wiggle room for us to actively pursue. We have to execute the orders of the court. What we can do is provide information on how to reach housing advocates, how to reach the city agencies that deal directly with this, how to reach your local council member who would also be able to help and provide more resources. Every time we go out to an event, we're fully staffed with plenty of information on how to help people with that. But to your question, we cannot directly help them avoid any of these proceedings.
Okay.
Let me chime in. There are advocacy groups that are, if they're at the door, the sheriffs are there to basically tell you that at this point, you have to leave the property. There are housing advocates that can be called to because they don't want to see anybody on the streets. Sometimes there's an agreement that can be made with the tenant if the organization says, okay, we can come up with this amount of money if the owner is agreeable to, and then say to the tenant, if you can get this amount of money, then you could probably stay in for another period of time while we work out how much money you're going to be paying for rent at the property. So those are the homeless advocates. They don't want to see you on the streets, but there are sometimes that they can come up, and I'm gonna tell you directly, I went through it with my brothers and them, one of my brothers, because he was being put out. And at that time, the home advocate was there to say, well, we can come up with this amount of money. Can you get this amount of money? And I guess I got the phone call and I had to bring down some money. So therefore they could stay in the property. So they wasn't out on the streets. So there are a lot of services when you even get up to that point that things can be made out. When you are renting a property, what you don't want to do is alienate yourself from the owner of the property. You don't want to damage the property. You don't want to be really negative or nasty to the person that's there, because there's always a way that at some point, some good homeowners or good property owners that may be renting out properties will work out some agreements if it's a situation that occurred beyond your control. They could probably work out an agreement. But there's a lot of rental assistance out there today. Our people just need to apply for them and be persistent and aggressive with contacting them to make sure that they can, even the landlord can apply for the rental assistance. And so those things that can help renters as far as dealing with those issues with evictions. Don't nobody like evictions. Don't nobody like evictions even now during this pandemic, which is hurtful. But there are avenues, and people need to take advantage of those avenues so that they can stay in the property until things work out where they can legally afford to be able to rent or buy a home.
Very good information. I had a victim who, she called me. She had two sons, I believe, a 10-year-old and I want to say 12 or 13. And she indicated to me that, so she was her child was victimized. Very horrible. But it threw her through a loop. And she was not able to function at work mentally. So she was with her child. Unfortunately, she was with her child for 2 to 3 months, and then she lost her job. So now she can't pay rent. And she said that, I want to say maybe like, she got this court order. And when she received the court order, it had already occurred. And she received it in the mail. So it had already occurred. And we know during COVID, everything was just in disarray. Mm-hmm. So she called me and said, I'm on the street. I just got kicked out. They said they were with the sheriff's department. It's raining, and I'm with my 10 and 12-year-old. And her 10-year-old had COVID. This was such an unfortunate situation. And I said, they're with the sheriff's department. So I immediately called Wanda Davis. And I know Wanda Davis because we used to attend the same church. But Wanda did do her research, and she found it definitely was not the sheriff's department. Sheriff Bilal, do you see that at times where these landlords are posing as the sheriff's department and that's not the fact?
Well, first of all, the courts have their own called eviction officers. That's the courts, not the sheriff. That's the courts. They have their own eviction officers. They are not sheriffs. And we say to people, if you see them come to your property and take a picture of them, and if they say they are a deputy sheriff, that's impersonating a law enforcement professional. They could be arrested for that. If the landlord tries to evict you and there's no paperwork in the works, call the police. The police, first of all, they can't enter your property if they don't have the proper paperwork. But even if they do try, call the police. The police know what type of paperwork that is needed in order to evict a person from a property. And so if the paperwork is not in, there's no eviction for that property, even in the computer system, then that landlord cannot evict you from the property at all. So you have impersonators. We're saying that if they do come, and that's just the court's eviction officers, they're different. They don't have sheriff on their clothing. They don't have a sheriff ID. They don't have sheriff's badges around their neck. They don't even have the sheriff patches. So you got to look for certain things. They are eviction officers. They're not law enforcement professionals. So they are not the ones to be representing us. And if the landlord hires somebody to go there to do that, that's illegal too, because it has to be a court order coming from the courts. Now, the eviction officers can come to the door, can post, and can evict you from a property, because that's what they do. They are eviction officers from the court. But if they say they're the sheriffs, then I would call the police, have the police identify exactly who they are, make a report that they told you that they was a sheriff when they wasn't, because that's impersonating a law enforcement professional, and they could be arrested for that.
Okay. Anyone who needs services, community services from the sheriff's department, can you tell them what number to call?
For our community outreach, I think, Greg, you have all those numbers?
I do indeed have all those numbers. And additionally, they are on our website, phillysheriff.com. That's PHILLYSHERIFF.com. We have a full list of all the resources available, as well as the phone numbers and the names of the agencies.
Thank you so much.
Our community outreach director is Monica Washington. If you know Phila.gov stuff, it's monica.washington@phila.gov. Reach out to her if you want the sheriff to be a part of any of the events that you have across the city. We'll send a team out with a tent and some tables and bring some giveaways and information on what the sheriff office do. We even carry other information. We carry the Register of Wills information, because we're working with them in most of the properties that go up for tax lien sales. Some of them are dealing with tangled titles. And so we're working with her on those issues. So just get the paperwork, email us. And if our schedule, look, we're starting to be the hottest item in the city because everybody wants us there now. And I don't blame them, because before you got no information, now you're getting abundance of information.
Good.
And we got the greatest giveaways too.
I say get to us early, because our schedule books up. And if you want me there, you need to get to us especially early, because my schedule books up. I on Saturdays, I'm like around 5, 6, or 7 different events.
Wow.
Go from one to the other, because I think it's important that they see me and that my deputy sheriffs are out there, and I check to make sure they brought everything that they needed to bring.
Okay. Sheriff Bilal, can you tell me what events you have coming up?
We have which is probably going to be our final one for the summer. We don't know what our winter schedule is going to be, but this is the final one from the summer. It's called our Unity in the Community Day. And that's going to be August the 28th. That's going to start from 10 to 4. And the location is the 24th block of North 33rd Street. We're giving away book bags that already have school supplies in them. We're giving away additional school supplies from the hamburgers, hot dogs, and sausages, and water and juice, entertainment, things for children, bouncy ball, dunk tank. I'm trying to get somebody in the dunk tank so that that we can raise funds for Adela's house, because Adela's house is right there. They're part of our partners. Our partners is Ahari, A Home is a Right organization. Adela's house, that's for reentry women coming back out of prison so that they can be and she's raising funds to renovate that property that's right there on the block. And our own Councilman Jones is also a partner in this event. There's a lot of things: food giveaway, book bag, resources, games, DJs, entertainment. We have a keynote speaker this time is Dr. Ted Sutton, who's going to be the keynote speaker at the event. And when you get our flyer, we have a host of resource tables that are going to be out there, and our partners that always come to help us doing that. We have a food giveaway. This is not the cook food. At 10 o'clock, we got boxes of produce and food for you to take home with, meats, produce, and dry goods. That's going to be right there on Ridge Avenue, and that's going to start at 10 a.m. So we have a food giveaway, then we go into the festival, our last summer outdoor event, and we want to hope everybody can come by. We got a bunch of book bags to give away, and we just want to say, come on out, enjoy the day, enjoy, because we're going to be there. Police are going to be there to make sure you're safe, and just come on out, bring your children, and have a good day.
That sounds good. And Sheriff Bilal, Northwest Victim Services would love to have a resource table at your event. We would love to stay connected with you because you are doing great work. Thank you so much for all of the work that you are doing, your staff, your all of your team. I truly thank you, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you inviting us, and we will see you on the 28th.
Thank you for joining me today. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you will take advantage of the resources available to you at the Philadelphia Sheriff's Department. Peace and blessings.